Chapter 10, The Hypno Clock. Misty hung up the phone and looked at Yoshi.
I knew I shouldn't have answered that phone, said Misty. Now I'm really in deep trouble. Yeah, answered Yoshi. Fanny Belcher has really got it in for you, not to mention Hazel Monger. Wow, thanks for making me feel better, said Misty sarcastically. Yoshi plopped down on the bed. But until the Ashcombe bell rings, I wouldn't get too worried about it. After all, the fulfilling of the prophecy all depends on the Ashcombe bell ringing, right? And as we all know, that broken old bell will probably never ring again. Misty jumped. I just remembered something. The newspaper mentioned that the Ashcombe Museum is lowering the Ashcombe bell today to repair it. It will be up and ringing in a couple of weeks. That is so not good, said Yoshi. That means we don't have much time to find the Golden Three. How are we supposed to find the Golden Three when the descendants haven't been able to find them themselves? Misty said in frustration. And according to Belcher's ghost, my father has spent most of his life looking for the Golden Three, and he's come up empty-handed as well. So you do believe what Fanny Belcher's ghost said, that your father has been trying to find the Golden Three ever since he heard the seance as a boy? Asked Yoshi. Yes, said Misty. For as long as I can remember, my dad has always seemed to be searching for things. And not just for things to sell in the store either. I mean, whenever he rummages through dead people's stuff, he gets this weird look on his face, like he's on a strange mission. Why don't you just tell your father everything you know? Asked Yoshi. Are you kidding? Said Misty. It's obvious by his locked study that this is his secret. If he learned that I'm involved in something so dangerous as trying to find the Golden Three, he'd flip out. The girl sat on the bed for a while, deep in thought. I've got an idea, Yoshi said, twirling her black ponytail around her finger. What? I think we should do some snooping around Mr. Yates's room at the dearly departed, suggested Yoshi. We might find something that he's forgotten about, like Fanny Belcher just let slip. Some clue, some key in finding the Golden Three. Key, Misty thought to herself, pondering the 2 keys Mr. Yates wore on a necklace. She knew that one key was for his bedroom, but she had no idea what the other one, an old skeleton key, was for. Misty had even asked Mr. Yates on several occasions what the old key unlocked, to which Mr. Yates had given his usual reply, "Don't recall, don't recall." Misty reflected on the way Mr. Yates had instinctively clutched his necklace for a brief moment that morning in the dearly departed, right after he'd spoken part of the riddle. Was there a link between whatever the skeleton key unlocked and the prophecy? You're right, Misty said. We should snoop around Mr. Yates's room. But in order to get into his room, we need to sneak the keys from his necklace. Misty crossed her arms, which means we'll have to do it while he's asleep. But what if he's not asleep? Asked Yoshi. Then we'll put him to sleep, said Misty, a glint of mischief in her eyes. How? Said Yoshi, puzzled. Leave that to me, said Misty, grinning. Welcome to the dearly departed, Mr. Yates cried from a chair. It's just me, said Misty as she and Yoshi entered the store. You don't have to get up, Mr. Yates. Oh, he said drowsily. A young Gordon. What brings you and your friend to the store? We found an old pocket watch, said Misty, and we thought you could tell us if it's worth something. Pocket watch, eh? Said Mr. Yates, sitting up. Well, let me have a look at it. Come, sit here, he said, patting a dilapidated couch next to his chair. The girls took a seat. Misty opened her bag and pulled out Madame Zaster's hypno clock. Holding its gold chain, Misty let the timepiece slowly slide out of her hand, and with a subtle movement, she set the captivating gold watch swaying back and forth in front of Mr. Yates's face. How interesting, he said, his eyes dazzled. It is, isn't it? Said Misty in a hushed voice. Mr. Yates nodded, his eyes following the hypno clock as it swung to and fro like a pendulum. As he settled into the rhythm of the clock's swaying, Misty read in a low voice the engraving on the back of the timepiece. Listen to the tick and listen to the tock. You're growing ever sleepy from the swaying hypno clock. Misty repeated the verse, and Mr. Yates's eyelids began to droop. What an amazing timepiece, he yawned. With every tick and with every tock, Mr. Yates's eyes grew heavier and heavier until they shut altogether. His head bobbing, he let out a snort and then fell back against the chair in a deep sleep. It worked, Yoshi said in awe. Misty smiled. Now for the keys. Carefully, Misty lifted the necklace over Mr. Yates's snoring head. Keys in hand, Misty motioned for Yoshi to follow her. Quietly, the girls crept cat-like down the hall to Mr. Yates's bedroom door, unlocked it with the ordinary key, and went inside. Mr. Yates's room was small and surprisingly tidy. Against one wall stood a mahogany four-poster bed covered in a faded but elegant emerald green quilt. Upon his bedside table was a lighted Tiffany lamp and a pair of glasses. Opposite the bed was a fireplace with the mantelpiece carved of marble. Misty and Yoshi scanned the room, looking for something with a lock upon it that the skeleton key might fit. This key has got to be for something, Misty said. I have a feeling that whatever it unlocks is in this room. But where? At that moment, they heard a strange noise that sounded as if a small object was rolling across the floor. But nothing was there. At least it seemed as though nothing was there. This called for Madame Zaster's glasses. Misty put them on and took a deep breath as an icy haze frosted the lenses. Wait a second, said Misty. I see somebody. The somebody happened to be the same ghost of the little boy she'd seen playing marbles during her last visit to the store. Dressed in knickers and a cap, the translucent boy was crouched in the middle of the room, rolling a marble across the floor. As Misty watched as, with a light clank, the marble dropped into a tiny hole in one of the wooden planks. Bullseye, the boy said, pleased. Then he grabbed up his bag of marbles, turned around, and walked straight through the door. Misty looked curiously at the hole. She dropped to her knees and stuck her finger into the opening. The floor is hollow, she said. She jiggled the plank and lifted it, revealing a compartment beneath the floor. There's something down there, said Yoshi, peering into the dark space. It looks like an old wooden box. Let me see if I can get it out, said Misty, sticking her hands into the tight space. I've got it. The smell of dank earth rose into the air as Misty lifted out the box and set it on the floor. Judging by the thick layer of dirt atop it, the box had been resting undisturbed in its hiding place for a very long time. Misty blew the debris from it and smiled. I think we've just discovered what the skeleton key is for, she said, tapping on the lock of the box. As she'd guessed, the skeleton key was a perfect fit. The lid opened with a creak. Inside were dusty bundles of yellowed parchment paper, rolled scroll-like and wrapped with twine. Misty took one out and untied it. Carefully, she unrolled it against the floor. Wow, said Misty. What a map! Indeed, an old decorative sea chart of the North Atlantic. The map showed the eastern edge of America and the western coast of England and the great expanse of ocean between them. Though tattered and worn, the hand-painted chart, replete with lush ornamentation, still glowed with radiant color. Means it looked fancy, and it was still bright. It's so beautiful, said Yoshi. And look, she added, pointing to a tiny painting of a ship moored at England's shores, and then reading the inscription below it. It's the Royal Ashcrum. As Yoshi gazed at the little ship, Misty's eyes drifted to the crumpled bottom right corner of the parchment, where an elaborate oval contained the title and date of the map. Oh my gosh, Misty squealed. This is Captain Yeats's sea chart. It's the very map he used on the Royal Ashcrum to sail over here. How do you know? Said Yoshi. It says so right here, said Misty, tapping on the oval. Scooting over, Yoshi read aloud the hazy script. Voyage of His Majesty's ship, the Royal Ashcrum, under the command of Captain Nicholas Yates, 1630. Misty scrambled for another scroll and unfurled it. It was another map. Emblazoned in black across the top were the words, The Royal Colony of Ashcrum, 1633. This is the map of our town, said Misty. And even though this map is hundreds of years old, the town hasn't changed much since the map was made. It was true. Though more roads had been added since 1633, the original roads in Ashcrum, Plunder Street, Anchor Street, and Shadow Street, were clearly marked in 3 thick, wandering lines on the map. Ashcrum Castle and the Bell Tower, the 2 main structures that existed at the time, were also shown by little paintings. Misty stared spellbound at the old town map. There was something very eerie about the wobbly, thick configuration of the roads. It means creepy. Yoshi unfurled another scroll, unrolled it. Take a look at this, Yoshi declared. Upon the parchment was a painting of Poseidon, the Greek god believed to have power over the sea. In his hand, he held a trident. It's like he holds a stick and it's got like 3 pointies. He's standing on a pedestal as if he's a statue, noted Misty. This must be a painting of one of the Golden Three. Below the painting, a short message was scrawled. To summon the force of mighty Poseidon, look to the points of his golden trident. Aim them well upon the sea, and command, Poseidon, pass your power through me. What does that mean? Wondered Yoshi. I think it's directions on how to use the statue, guessed Misty. So it's like an owner's manual? Mused Yoshi. Exactly. Misty opened the 2 remaining scrolls. Each had a painting of one of the Golden Three. There was Zeus, believed to have power over the heavens. In his hand, he held a lightning bolt. The other painting was of Hades, the darkest god of all. Hades was believed to have power over the underworld, the dead. Both Zeus and Hades had a similar brief message scrawled beneath them. How frustrating, said Yoshi. Here are the instructions on how to use the Golden Three, but without the actual statues, the instructions are worthless. To make matters worse, there's no way to find the statues. I mean, these maps don't even have an X like pirate maps ought to have. I know, said Misty. That is weird. There is no mark anywhere on this map that even hints at the location of the Golden Three. Suddenly, the bells at the store entrance jingled. Someone just came in, Misty whispered frantically. Quick, give me the scrolls. In a blink, Misty shoved the scrolls into her bag while Yoshi replaced the empty box and the plank. Out of the room they rushed, shutting the door behind them. Hello, came a voice from the very front of the store. Misty and Yoshi shot down the hall and skidded next to Mr. Yates, who was just snorting awake. Misty dropped the necklace back over his head just in time for Mr. Yates to cry, Welcome to the dearly departed. Just looking, said the tourist, his camera swinging below his neck. Well, by all means, do look around, said Mr. Yates, getting up from the chair as he recited his usual sales pitch. "There's plenty to look at and much to find at the dearly departed. If you dig deep enough, you're certain to find something. Isn't that right, young Gordon?" "Absolutely," said Misty, patting her bag that contained the scrolls. "Absolutely."
And that's the end of chapter 10.